There's still a little left we have to say to one another. There's quite a bit we yet have to hear, however. But in order to hear, you have to know how to listen. But if you know how to listen, you already know the entire message. You understand the key that thought creates your universe. And that those thoughts themselves are but manifestations. They're like reflected light. The thinking mind uses the light from the Jivatman. The Jivatman is merely the individual reflection of the Mahatman. The one to the many, to all the manifestations of the many. Often it seems like your desires get in the way of the light, and yet the only reason those desires are around is because they are old habits that you learned in order to get to the light. You try to be brahmachari, sexually continent, and you suddenly experience lust. And you experience lust because previously the closest way you got to the light was through the moment of sexual union. But the problem with lust is that it takes an object. You lust after somebody or something. And when the world is divided into subjects and objects, we're all alone all the time. You can see how thoughts create the universe. It really helps. You meet somebody, and for some reason or other, you think they're a good person under a gruff exterior. That idea affects all of your responses, which in turn affect all of the responses of the other individual, which in turn leads to the way in which that relationship works out. It's very different from meeting somebody and saying, I bet they're pompous. The weird and far out and paradoxical thing is that all the thoughts that we have that seem to lead us away from light, seem to lead us into isolation, into anxiety, into dualism, into low energy. All those are functional too, because it turns out that there is an abrasive quality in suffering that is part of the process of coming to the light. It's like shining silver, polishing mirrors, waking you up. A lot of people look back with horror on all their past experiences and say, well, finally it's getting good. That's because they haven't yet stood back far enough to see how exquisitely it all unfolds. How every confusion, backtracking, doubt, fear, horrible experience, unfortunate event, pitiful circumstance, seemingly frivolous act, sinful breakdown of discipline, all of it were just steps along the path. But in order to see the path, you have to be very quiet and stop thinking. Because every time you think how the path is, you just create it according to that thought. Even the concept there's a path. Feel at the moment now you're on a path. Feel it? You're not there and you're not there. You're on the path. And think, I am on the path. Now try, I've just finished the path. Here I am. Whew. Right. Home at last. Wow. What are the motorboats? Are they interference? You can't hear the birds and the wind? Or are they part of the divine dance of the mother? Around December, I started a tour, a darshan tour, which went all around everywhere, and then some. And I thought, wow, this is going to be groovy karma yoga. So all I have to do is not be attached to anything. And then it'll be as if all the stuff that I appear to be doing is just an appearance that I'm doing it, because from my thoughts, nothing's happening. So many thousand miles, so many million words, so many Ramada Inns stayed at, so many, cheese sandwiches eaten. And I thought, if I just go through the whole 4.5 months and come out higher than I went in, then I really have the system down pat. I said pridefully. And slowly I watched, to my horror, the 4.5 months go by until I was exhausted and irritable, paranoid, marking off on my calendar the dates that were left, the whole trip. And I looked at myself with some compassion, obviously not enough. And I thought, this is a desperate plight. I'm almost taking myself seriously. I mean, I'm really looking at all this like it's real. I'm driving down the roads like there's somewhere to go, talking to people like there's somebody listening, taking all those ego rewards like there's somebody receiving them. I'm doing important work. And then Penny and I were singing this song together. This girl that I was singing with, she played the dulcimer and I played the tambura. And we were singing together Yogananda's song. Engrossed is the bee of my mind on the blue lotus feet of my divine mother. Engrossed is the bee of my mind on the blue lotus feet of my divine mother. Divine mother, my divine mother, divine mother, my divine mother, divine mother, my divine mother, divine mother, my divine mother. And I started to sing that, and sing it, and sing it, and sing it. I sang it all day long. I'd be driving down the road in Kansas, and I'd look around, and there would be an interesting farmhouse, and I'd start to study the farmhouse, and suddenly into my head would come, engrossed with the bee of my mind in the blue lotus feet of my divine mother. I'd see there she was. She had just filled my head with new thought forms. And then I'd look at my watch to see if I was moving on schedule, and go through my mind would be, engrossed is the bee of my mind on the blue lotus feet of my divine mother. And after about 5 days of this, it just kept coming through and through and through and through. Got to the point where everything I looked at, all I could see it was as a manifestation of the Divine Mother. Is that a tree? Or is that a manifestation? that a message? Something that's cutting out the sun? Something that mosquitoes collect around? Is it my tree? Is it so many board feet of lumber? Not worth cutting. Knots go way in. That tree's no good. No good. Strong and secure. Is it reaching up to the light? Reaching down into the earth? Which take is the real take? Which tree is it we're looking at? Just a manifestation of the Divine Mother. Once you dig that your thoughts create your universe, then you dig that if you could not be hung up with your thoughts, you'd really hear how the universe is, if there is a universe. Whatever it's all about, you'd know it. Of course, every time you wanted to know you know it, then you'd have to think. Then you'd be hung up in your thoughts again. So if you understand that that's the root, all you have to do is say, well, stop thinking. I mean, I understand how it is, or I'll stop thinking. Well, that's a thought. Obviously, I can't stop thinking just yet, because there are still some things I got to think about, I think. Well, if I can't stop thinking, maybe I can just let my thoughts go by without getting all caught up in them. Feel a breeze on your face or your neck. See how it's going by? You're not all hung up with it. You don't have to see where each breeze goes. You have to look quick to see if it's hit those trees over there. Just breezes, and they're just going by. Well, when you can make your thoughts like those breezes, those little breezes, just going by. See, the frame of reference you have for experiencing the breeze is your body. What's the frame of reference for experiencing your body, do you figure? If your body is like the breeze, where are you going to stand to look at it? Well, there is a point called a center, a bindu. It's everything and nothing. It's the point right in the center. And all you have to do is go behind that one, and 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 that one. And you keep coming to a center, and from the center, as you get closer to the center, you keep seeing more and more. And more breezes go by. The breezes of life, the melodrama of life goes by. And you're sitting at the center. And finally you get to a place where you think you're in the center and all the rest of it is around the edge. And that's the last big illusion. Before you suddenly realize that it's all center. All center. There's no place in the entire universe that isn't the absolute center. As above, so below, and so forth. You come to the center where there is a center and a periphery. You come to the I where there is an I and everything else that is not I. And then you take one look at the center. Where do you stand to look at the center? That's the interesting one. If you can't stand there, that's just the center. You can use mantra or sound or a candle flame, or the place between someone else's eyes, or an inner sound as your route to the center. Sound of Om. See the motorboat, the birds, the wind, the Brownian movement, the sound of all the molecules of air in your inner ear. Just let it all wash over you as one sound, the sound of Om. way your body feels right at this moment is a manifestation of thought forms. People who don't understand the power of thought, the power of being able to bring the mind to one point and keep it there. Feel the tightness in a part of your body. Once you know how to do it, you can bring all of your thought to that point and then make that which is tight loose by becoming that which is tight and then becoming loose. Very obvious method. For many people, there's a tightness in their chest. There's a tightness in the spine right in the corresponding place to their chest. When they breathe, their breathing isn't totally free. They feel pulled in. And their spine feels tight. And if you watch them do the cobra, you'll see when they lift from the head up, the neck bends and just starts down. And then there's a big solid place that's just like a piece of spine that is made of cement. It's like a locked piece. It appears not to have any vertebra at all connected. And then you move down the spine, and there are long, loose places and then locked places. A lot of people experience life as if they have like a girdle around their chest and back, right in this area. And this is the physical manifestation of what's known as a closed fourth chakra, or an energy center of compassion, the anahata, the heart center. And they love, but they often love with their mind. They love up here. They don't love here because nothing much is happening in here, because it's all so tight. Some people, when they get off by themselves, can suddenly, finally breathe, they say. Oh, first real breath I've had. They get into a really safe scene with very safe people in a safe situation, and suddenly they feel their spine becomes like liquid. And they can dance, and their spine becomes loose. The people who play the game of psychosomatic medicine have only begun to understand what it is they've touched upon, although they touched upon it analytically. You say, yeah, but isn't age, the aging of the body, that's more than a thought form, isn't it? No. Well, if that's nothing but a thought form, I'd like to change it. Well, I'll give you a prescription that if you go home and use regularly and really want to change it, you will get to the point where you can change it. However, I must forewarn you that when you get to the place where you can change it, you will understand why it was in the first place. and you will no longer want to change it. I will assure you that there are yogis who have powers to keep themselves alive and in their body for many hundreds of years. That is known as a siddhi, or a power. And for some of them, it's a real drag. And they're doing it in order to serve. They're doing it for some reason or other that we don't know. Sometimes they're doing it just to have a power. Or because they have a very subtle fear of what comes next, no matter how hip they are. You see what happens. Take that yogi who's keeping himself alive just because he's keeping himself alive. He got in the habit of keeping himself alive. It's got to be a habit of thought. He can go on indefinitely. But don't you see that all habits of thought are traps? No matter how groovy they are, or how astral they are, or how causal they are, or how pure they are, that every thought form is always just one fix, one particular cut of the cake. I was writing about siddhis for the cookbook that we're going to put out in this box we're going to distribute. And I was writing about the sadhu in India who has this power that he can lift a 100-pound bag of sand with his penis. I mean, he does it just with his penis, right? Now, that's an extraordinary feat. And people come from miles around. And if you are lucky, he will do it for you. Right? And that really gives you a good example to think about what powers are about. I mean, is that getting him to heaven? Where is it getting him? Why is he doing it? What's it all about? The problem of the path is that every new step of the path, every new degree of purification, every advanced step of one-pointedness gives you more and more and more power. And to the extent there's anything you want, other than to get done with power, or to get done, or to be enlightened, and even that's another trap, of course. But anything else you want, you're going to get. All of it. You may say, oh, well, that's well and good, but I'm now 39 years old, and when I was young, I wasn't really living it up. You want to? Wait. You'll get it. And probably by the time you get it, you'll say, oh, man, you know why I'm getting this? Because you'll be that hip at that point, which you're not now. Because if you were that hip now, you'd stop thinking them up. Because every one you think up, you're going to get. I'm in the midst of the poignant predicament at this point in my game of seeing quite clearly how I'm paying the price for all of my fantasies of yesterday. You want it, you get it. But beware of desiring anything finite, because whichever one of those things you get, you're going to have to give up along the way, because it's all going to fall away. Lay not up your treasures where moth and rust doth corrupt. And that includes your body, your personality, and all your really great ideas. When you dig that all your desires are just creating more and more karma for you, then with that knowledge, you'd really like to stop desiring things. But that, of course, is a desire. What you can do is stand back and watch your desires at work. That's a good one. You want a cigarette? Watch yourself wanting a cigarette. Watch yourself reaching for a cigarette. Watch yourself smoking a cigarette. Watch yourself enjoying smoking a cigarette. Watch yourself putting out the cigarette. Don't say, watch yourself saying, I wish I could stop smoking. Keep watching until you have honestly watched. That is, you have identified only with the watcher rather than the being who is smoking a cigarette. If you will honestly do that, you then will have truly the choice of whether you will ever smoke again. But the game is very clear and obvious to everybody that stands back and watches themselves. We would like to be done with desire, but we don't quite want to be done just yet, because we still desire our desires. We like to be beautiful, Buddha-like, enlightened, pure beings, pure light. Well, why aren't we? Well, it's something we want first. I'm going to heaven, but you don't mind, I'm going to stop and pick up a package of cigarettes on the way. You can imagine standing on the bank of a waterfall and watching the water go over, and then equating the water to your own thoughts. Once you see those two truths, that thoughts go on and on and on, a part of nature, and that thoughts mold your universe, then you are in a position to start to experience how shifting thoughts shift your universe. Like, how long does it take you to get over a grudge?